Okay, in this video I'm going to guide you through the letter groups that I use at the Education Pitstop, which I feel give most success to children being able to form their letters correctly. The writing implement is important as well, so this pen has got a nice triangular grip, that's perfect. Any pen which has a nice ink flow out of it, this one, this type, they're all really great to use. Pencil, fabulous. A triangular pencil, all the better. Really nice for small hands to be able to hold it correctly in a good position. What you do not want to be using is something like this, a biro. It's slippy and there's not enough grip and friction on the paper for the child to get nice letters. You want to slow them down, and something like this or a pencil is absolutely perfect for doing that. So I break the letter groups into 5 different groups, all of which start in the same way. So I'm going to take you through the first group, which you might think this shouldn't be the first group in that it's not the most simple letters to form, but to be honest we move through them fairly quickly and we want to get a good motion. So the first letters all begin with every single letter we're going to do starts on the bottom line. First letters are all going to start on this bottom train track. It's going to sweep up to this top train track, I like to call it, and then it's going to go into reverse. So every single letter we're going to do on this line now is going to start in the same way. Now I took my pen off as we did that to show you what I was doing, but it needs to be one fluid movement into here and then reverse round. Okay, so then we've got the C. The next letter in this group, we start exactly the same way. It looks like we're going to do a C, then we go up and it becomes an A. Next one, we're going to just start all of them starting in exactly the same way. Now we have a D, then we're going to go to a G, and this is why the whole of this group of letters, even though they're not that similar to each other to look at, they're all starting with the same motion, and if the child knows what motion they're doing to start with, it's surprising how quickly they can automatically start doing this movement. Now this next one is Q, but because in our language the Q never ever sits on its own, it is always followed by the U, I actually sneak the U into this category as well. It will appear on its own later on, but whenever we do a Q, we always do it followed by a U. If you're very early stages of writing, younger children, I would just do these as the first group and I would separate out these last two as a separate group. With older children who have already been writing for a while, then I would include these as well. You're not going quite as high up on this one here, and then we come back round and you've got your O. Your O is the first letter that finishes at the top. Every other letter starts down on the bottom line and finishes down on the bottom line. We have a few top finishers and O is one of those. It's our first one, and the other one following this again, we're not quite so far over. And there is RS. So every letter I'm giving it the flick out so that it's ready to start joining into the next letter, because you want to encourage that fully cursive movement. Right, so the next whole row we're going to do are going to be the up and down group. So again, within the train tracks, you're feeling that up, down. They will change as we go through. There's a few extras that go in here. So we'll do I, J, up, down, and then from here a J is going to loop under, and then we finish a dot at the end. This next batch will go up, down, and then back up and over for an R. Another one that's a top finisher, not so handy for our joining, but we get used to that as we go along. And we've got our N, up, down, and then back up and over. It's really good to get the children with M's. Younger children often just want to do the hump bits without doing this up, down, over, over. So it's really nice for them to understand the right motion from the beginning. The next one, up, down, and then we're going to go under. And there's our U on its own. And after that, up, down, and here is our Y. And our final one in this group, up, down, all the way back up, and then we give him a fat tummy for our P. And you'll notice when we're doing these letters, none of them are going anywhere near these red lines, top or bottom, and that's really good to get a good flow. All right, our next ones, we have got the tall letters. So we're going to fly up past the blue line and back down. This is the L group. They're all our nice tall letters. So next we've got up, down, halfway up, and there's our H. B following the same one all the way up, down, and we like to give him a fat tummy. And we've got our K. This one can be tricky. If you tell them it's tricky, warn them of it and say, oh, it's really, really hard, we've got to do it, then they quite like the challenge, and lots of children tell me this is one of their favourites. So we go all the way up, all the way back down, halfway up like we did in all those others, but then they've got to try and squeeze this bit and this bit all inside this train track. Children who have been writing for a long time and have got into the habit of doing a large kicking kind of K find it quite difficult and often resist coming to this kind of K and find it hard to make that automatic. So if you can teach it from the start, it's really great for them when they're learning to join up, and makes it a lot more flowing. A K with the just straight lines going out is very difficult to flow when you're joining your writing. And finally T, he only just comes above the line. He wants to be tall, but he's not quite. And then we come back and cross. Okay, so that's our third letter group. Two more to do. We next have the zigzags, as we call them. So we fly to the top line. That's just our kind of starting movement, because then we've got zig, zag, and he finishes at the top for V. Next we have fly to the top, zig, zag, and finishes at the top again for a W. So these letters are a bit awkward, our zigzag letters. Next we will do our X. Now there's lots of different ways to do this. My preferred method, the way that I always teach, you fly to the top again, you come across diagonally, and then you kick off into your next letter. When you've finished whatever word you're writing, just like the T and the I and the J, and you have to come back and do something to them, you come back and you cross later on. Often X is at the end of a word, like fox, for example, and so it's not really massively relevant. But if you're writing a word and it has an X inside it, like example, then if you properly join it, you can keep the nice flow of the letters, and you come back at the end and you put a line across. And our final zigzag is he flies up to the top, and then he runs along the train line. He comes diagonally back, and he runs along the train line again. Okay, for our Z. Not a hugely pleasant letter to write, especially when you're trying to join it, but luckily he doesn't come up very often. And then our final letter group, there's only 2 letters in this, and lots of us who come to my lessons, these are our favourites. We say, oh yeah, because these are our roller coaster letters. We go wee for our loop the loop E, and then our F starts like a giant E. So we start on the bottom line. It's as though I'm going to do a giant E, but when I get to the top, my roller coaster plummets vertically down, straight down, and he loops back round, and it's a double loop the loop. And this is the only letter that goes both above and below the line. And the children generally really enjoy doing that. They're often quite wonky the way the children do it. They often come to the side and then they go back to the side, so it does make it quite wonky. So if you try to get them to loop round and then vertically down and round, it doesn't hugely matter though, because it does even out. And I've had huge success in teaching children the letter groups in this way. Hope that's been useful to you, and thank you very much. Bye bye.